Hi, my name is Abid Mehmood. I am Senior Research Fellow at Sustainable Places Research Institute, Cardiff University. The paper I'm going to present is part of the research funded by Royal Academy of Engineering, and the paper seeks to advance the understanding and analysis of the role and impact of housing and neighborhood characteristics on the well-being of communities in the informal settlements in the Global South. First of all, some definitions. So for the purpose of our paper, we define informal settlements as characterized by poor housing that may not necessarily comply with building or planning regulations, a lack of sufficient basic services, inadequate healthcare and other public amenities, and housing that offers no tenure security for inhabitants. Well-being, for our purpose, is a state of complete physical and mental and social well-being, and not just the absence of disease or infirmity. Housing is a product of an assemblage of urban human, non-human interconnections, and not just a physical structural concept. It is also one of the underlying factors in cities that shape and determine human well-being. There are three key objectives of this paper. First of all, to evaluate the living conditions of the informal settlements through household interviews and surveys which were conducted with the communities. Number two, to determine the impact and importance of various attributes on the well-being and sustainability of informal settlements and their dwellers using structural equation modeling. And finally, to reflect on the main constructs and subconstructs of sustainability and well-being in informal settlements to develop a roadmap for evaluating the conditions and potential improvement solutions through local stakeholders. A look at the three cases which we have been using in this study. First of all, we picked the informal settlement of Manohara, which is located at the banks of Manohara River, which is highly polluted, and the people living there on the banks are highly at risk of being affected by the pollution and natural disasters. Other factors which affect their living quality and housing conditions are the lack of infrastructure, roads, sanitation, water supply, and also financial security and other challenges. The second case study is Khayelitsha in South Africa. It is the second largest township in South Africa, and after the COVID lockdowns, the population in the settlement has been rising, and it is almost 1 million now. The third case is in Jordan, Al-Baqa refugee camp, which is the largest official Palestinian refugee camp in Jordan. It is located about 20 kilometers from the capital and is spread it is spread over an area of almost 1.5 square kilometer. But the population of 120,000 people within such a small area reflects the very high density and the problems and the challenges these people are facing. Coming to the hypothesis, we offer a holistic view on the relationship between household features, housing design, and neighborhood conditions to further assess their effects on well-being constructs in Nepal, South Africa, and Jordan. As I have mentioned earlier, the case studies were selected to include a cross-section of countries representing Sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East, and Asia, and a variety of urban conditions as well as environment and climate, for example, temperate, dry, subtropical, respectively. Through a detailed questionnaire, the study assessed the relationship between housing design, neighborhood form, social inclusion, and mental and physical health and well-being. Comparative analysis allowed identifying the innovative changes and strategies in conjunction with local stakeholders to improve individual and public. The study population consisted of the households in the three selected case studies areas. So there are about 12,000 households which were identified in the three cases. 5% of the target population was selected, which meant 611 household interviews were conducted and surveys were carried out using questionnaires. Confirmatory factors analysis and path analysis were conducted to assess the validity of the constructs and subconstructs, and structural equation modeling was used to validate the relationship between these constructs based on the maximum likelihood estimates. Since all the research hypotheses were statistically significant at the time of analysis, the path analysis for the theoretical framework of study using 4 main constructs and 36 subconstructs with loading factor greater than 0.5 satisfactory relationship of variables in measurement of construct were developed as illustrated in the figure. Both R-square of house design and conditions and well-being are above 0.5, which meant that there are moderate correlation and significance in the model developed. So as regards the findings about housing conditions, we can see that 98% of houses in Jordan are connected to clean water supply, and also we can see that 84% of houses are connected to a decent sanitation system. But in the case of Nepal, this is the other way around. We can also see that all three settlements have got substantial supply or access to secure electricity. However, there is minimum or no protection from the natural disasters such as floods and fires for these communities. Here we see the neighborhood conditions. The access to safe public transport in the neighborhood is quite high in South Africa and Jordan, but we can also see that the access to shops and commercial amenities is quite high and for in all three settlements. But again, we can see that there is very little or no protection of the community from the disasters in all three areas. But in terms of the well-being conditions, we find that Nepal scores very high, 86% in terms of the strong sense of community and also in terms of the connectivity to the neighborhood as compared with its other counterparts. We can also see that the emotional and mental health is, the sense of emotional and mental health is quite strong, not enough, but still, and probably based on these community relationships. But again, the financial sustainability is a huge challenge in all three cases. The figure shows that the outer weights of variables of each independent construct, for example, households, housing, and neighborhood, are very close. Almost 0.5 for household variables and 0.1 for housing and neighborhood variables, which indicate the importance and almost equal impact of all these variables on well-being. However, W8, which is emotional and mental health, and W9, which is physical health, and W1, safe living conditions, are the three well-being independent variables that are slightly more important or affected by dependent variables than the other well-being variables. So in conclusion, we can say that the analysis offers a novel approach to the importance of the dependent constructs and subconstructs on well-being and sustainability. We also support the argument through the analysis about the important role of neighborhood conditions, housing conditions, and household characteristics, the well-being of the individuals and communities in the informal settlements. The model also offered the possibility of multi-level solutions, both at the neighborhood and at housing level, to the challenges faced in informal settlements, as well as the intricate social networks existing in these settlements to support a range of livelihood strategies. These strategies consequently impact the social, economic, and environmental sustainability of the urban dwellers. We also caution that a one-size-fits-all approach to informal settlement upgrading is not a viable solution. For example, you cannot copy one successful example from one part of the world and try to apply it in other parts of the world, as is common practice of some of the international institutions. So the objective now is to offer a toolkit on evaluating the informal settlement conditions and potential improvement solutions by local stakeholders in the Global South. Thank you.